Antarctica roll on
Yeah.
TV.
Awesome. It's preparing to live stream, but for those buddies just joining us, let us know where y'all are coming from in the chat and what kind of career are you working towards. Lots of diversity here and people in all continents. Oh, from Antarctica Research Base. All right, cool. I'll get started. I'll share quick screens. Let me just share quick slides for like house rules and stuff. But yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Grace. I founded, if you're all new to Design Buddies, I'm Grace. I founded Design Buddies randomly in April of 2020 when I wanted to make some buddies in design, and here we are today. And Design Buddies, we have a wholesome Discord community, and we have a lot of resources, events, workshops, all to help y'all connect and level up in your design careers and life. We've kind of blow up and we have a lot of events and stuff, and Nabil, our friendly moderator, just dropped some links in the chat, so y'all welcome to connect with us as well and get some Zoom backgrounds to twin with us. And just a quick house rules, events are recorded, but if you don't wish to be part of any of the recording, you may join us on YouTube, which we are live streaming right now. Feel free to engage in the chat. You can chat with each other. It's meant to just be like kind of like a Twitch style live stream where buddies can just like connect and vibe. Really casual here, really wholesome. So feel free to connect with each other. We also have a networking sheet as well where y'all can send each other like a personalized LinkedIn invite saying y'all met at this event. We will not have a Slido this time, but at the end, we will take a group selfie, and that's where you can get your custom Zoom backgrounds to twin with us if you wish. Feel free to share your takeaways on social media, tag Design Buddies. We love to reshare them on Instagram, Twitter. We also have a networking sheet later where you can connect with each other. You can hop into Discord, have fun, be wholesome, and yeah. And with that, I'll hand it over to Michelle.
Amazing. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, or I guess very early morning to people who are joining us at 1 a.m. I love all of you. You are way more committed to resume review than I am. It is middle of my afternoon here over on the East Coast. I'm going to drop a link into the chat for you to go ahead and join us in our kind of icebreaker mural. For anyone who's used Mural before, feel free to just use that same email and password that you logged in with previously. For anyone who's not used Mural before, it's going to ask you to likely set up an account. Don't be intimidated by that. It is entirely free. This is a way so that we can say, oh, like, we can match the name in here in our Zoom into the mural. And what you'll see in there is a big white space on the right-hand side. What I'd love to invite everyone to do is drop in a logo or two from your dream job or your dream employer. Maybe it's your employer you're currently working at, which would be amazing. And then on the left-hand side are a handful of resources. I'll share my screen and we can walk through those in just a second. But feel free to let us know in the chat if you've got any questions or anything, or are struggling to get into the mural as we get started. This mural is also going to be the spot that has all of your resources and takeaways from today. So if you can't get into there, feel free to wave your hands wildly in the chat, and we'll try to help you out and figure out what's going on.
This is my my favorite part. I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Amy Stefanski. I'm the manager of the Student Ambassador program here at Mural. And my team and I specifically work with students. And we give away Mural for free. Mural is free for anybody, honestly. My camera keeps doing weird things. So we want to invite you guys in to explore today, and then also to have conversation about where you guys want to work at. What's your dream job? Where are we going? I love this. Michelle, do you want us to share our screen since we're not shared yet?
Let me go ahead and reshare.
I can share my screen.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm having my Zoom is just not playing nice today, which is inevitable as soon as we're trying to showcase something.
Yeah.
So welcome on in. I see Amy's bringing in Disney. I see you.
I do. It's me. That's me. That's where I want to go. I love it.
I see quite a few folks wanting to work for Discord. Amazing. So feel free to continue to bring those in. Otherwise, just double click anywhere in that right-hand side and it'll actually generate a sticky note that you can just type directly into if you're like, dude, trying to find the image icon on that left-hand side to pull in a logo is just beyond the scope of things I can do at whatever time of day it is for you. While I'm going to give you all a second to do that. And while you're doing that, let me do a quick review of resources for today's session and things that are going to kind of be most helpful to you post session, because we'll have Adrienne walk through her kind of resume on the template that we're going to walk through today and discuss and give some tips and tricks for that. But we do want to be cognizant that we want to give you all these things to take home, right? So how do we do that? And how do we give you guys that set of resources? On that left-hand side, you're going to see a blue box on the left. Amy, I think there's one covering that. If you want to delete that top blue box, there you go. There's a couple of them. So that's the template that we'll be using today. Feel free to double click that blue sticky note and that will open up the template for you. What you'll notice on the right-hand side is that we have got a section there for your free Mural education account for anyone who's a student or still has access to a student email. Go ahead and click through those links. You can sign up there. I'll drop that into the chat as well. And then on the right, that number 2, as a special treat for all of you joining us live today, we are hosting 2 resume review sessions live in 2 weeks on March 7th and 8th. Right at the end of the business day Pacific time, we'll be having 2 different sessions. Those are limited to 30 spots a session. So if you are interested in having other design buddies review your resume and give you direct feedback on your current resume content, get yourself signed up for one of those 2 sessions. We would love to see you there, and feel free to go ahead and register for those. With that, let's go ahead and just take a quick look at those purple resources below, and then I'll hand it over to Adrienne, who's going to run through that kind of filled out version of the template and start to give us some of that resume feedback and advice. So these are some additional things that may be helpful. Yes, go ahead, Amy.
I'm sorry. Could one of you grab the template for today and throw it in the chat real quick for everybody who's joining us as well? So just click on the blue link and just throw it in the chat for me.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So that'll be in chat momentarily for everybody.
Okay, resources, right. Okay, here we go.
So these 4 resources are not the exhaustive list, right? I'm sure anyone who's on this call has like Googled and has a huge list of other things for reference for resumes. That's fabulous. These are some ones that we particularly love. There's a couple of tips on, especially for college students or someone just coming out of some level of an education space, whether that's things like General Assembly or other boot camps or a secondary education. These are some great tips specifically to be thinking about what makes sense to include from that experience. On that next one over on the right is cover letter examples. So I don't know about y'all. If you want, feel free to send an emoji or a reaction by show of those things. But like, I'm terrified by cover letters. I just shake in my boots when I see that is required for a job application. And it does not have to be that way. So this is an excellent resource, a huge library with tons of examples, tons of format samples. Check that out. If you're like, man, cover letters, no, thank you. Never going to do it. Like, check that out. Similarly, there's a library of resume examples over on the left. That's a fabulous library. It's actually filterable by job title. That's amazing, right? Like, go and check out. I saw plenty of people. I want to work in UX design. I see lots of great logos over on the right-hand side. go check that out and sort through that for the kind of job that you want. And then that one on that bottom right hand is for ATS friendly resumes. And you may not know quite what that is. You may be like, I don't know what ATS is, Michelle. That is applicant tracking system. So if anyone has ever had that wonderful thing where you get sent through a portal that's like, upload your resume and we'll autofill all the things in our application online, that's ATS. And that's what you're going to want to be mindful of. There's some kind of very good tips and tricks in there for, you know, a lot of you who are designers may have these gorgeous resumes. Those don't generally play super nice with that upload, right? You've probably seen it, like the formatting gets weird, your stuff gets dropped in the wrong boxes. How do we avoid that? That's a great resource for tips. With that, maybe just a couple of housekeeping things as we're going through the session. I see a couple of notes in the chat. I want to sign up for the resume sessions. I will drop the link in chat in just 2 seconds. I see a lot of questions already coming through. Amazing. Feel free to continue doing that. What Say and I are going to do is pull all of your questions and things out of that chat and drop them in for us to do a long Q&A at the end of this. So feel free to drop any questions in there and we'll get to them, I swear. And then we'll go ahead and hand it over to Adrian to get started. I see people in the chat asking for links to Mural, etc. No worries. I'm going to drop all of those in chat for you again so that you've got everything you need.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. Just to give you a little bit of snapshot of who I am a visual communications major at the University of Maryland Global Campus. I am also minoring in digital media and web technology. It's my last year. Super excited to have that paper in my hand. I'm also a Springboard student. So going for UX UI design to combine all of this for a really great career in UX UI. I'm going to share my screen with my mural. This mural was a wonderful asset for me to take all of my experience, all of my work, all of my education, and brainstorm as to how I wanted to share that with an employer. And this is something that you can easily do to help you in being able to do the same. So you're going to definitely see yours. I believe you can follow along with me. I think Michelle is dropping that in the chat so you could see up close how you would go about doing this for yourself. But we'll start with the dream job bank. I love getting creative and starting to visualize, where do I want to go? Where do I want to be, right? So while I'm thinking about that, I might drop in like some logos of the companies, places, jobs. My dream job is either a UX, UI, or a little combination of both. And I also like to put in where I'm actually doing. So I also have my MURAL Student Ambassador internship here. I will be interning with YEX this coming summer as a UI designer. So just putting a little bit of that up there so I can get in my mind the companies and organizations of where I want to go. And from there, you can start thinking of what your personal information is. We all know what our personal information is, but what do we want to share with the employers? Of course, you want to share like your email address and your number. You want them to get in contact with you once they reach your resume. You might want to share your LinkedIn. I know I use my LinkedIn quite a bit to show my designs. I also made sure I put my portfolio here. I want to make sure I have that front and center. So all I have to do once I've brainstormed everything is copy and paste. From there, you start thinking about your education. Now, you're going to want to include your school's name. Always put your full name of your university, not the abbreviated version. When we start talking about ATS-friendly resumes, they can't understand abbreviations. They say, what the heck is a UMGC? I don't know what that is, but an ATS system will be able to translate University of Maryland Global Campus just fine. So definitely put your full name of your university, as well as the degree that you're pursuing. You can use some abbreviations for things that might not matter too much. So I might put BA Visual Communications. That'd be my Bachelor of Arts, but nothing that would be not able to understand right away. I also like to put my scholarships. Why did I get that scholarship? That was an educational excellence scholarship. I put a lot of work into that. So that's something that you might want to share along with, like, whether you've made the dean's list, maybe you've had a really great GPA, be proud of that, and share that with an employer if you're coming right out of school. For career changers, maybe you put your degrees as well as like your masters or your minors that you might have taken. But if you maybe owned like a community, like for Grace, she owned Design Buddies, and she might not be in college right now, but that's something that to be really proud of and share with an employer. Definitely put that on your resume as well. And on the side, I also thought of my certificates. I have a certificate from General Assembly, from BrainStation, from Springboard. These are really reputable schools in the tech space. So I want to make sure that I share that with them too. So once I have put all of that into my education, it's time to think about your experience. Your experience can be very broad and it can also be very narrow. It really does depend on where you're coming from in your career. You want to start with your current experience. Right now, I'm a Mural Student Ambassador. That's what I do majority of my time. And I list out what tasks I do, what I specialize in for Mural, what I like to collaborate on, what I bring to my team. From there, you might also think of what you've done before that. I also worked for General Assembly and did a lot in service design. That's not exactly where I'm going with my career, but it's helpful to share as I am very much in that field still. So that's something that you would want to add as well. You definitely want to make sure you start with action verbs. So what did you actually do? Did you participate? Did you engage? Did you lead? Did you assist, grow, created, anything that shows action in what you have done for that company in that role. Also include anything that can be professional or volunteer work, leadership experience. If you have, again, led an organization in maybe an employer resource group, or in college, maybe you did a student resource group or a community in campus. That's something to definitely share throughout your experience, so that they can see that you do have leadership qualities, and that you have been in a position where you've worked with others and have effectively collaborated on something, especially as a designer. Another great thing to think about, and this is your think tank, so you get to put whatever you feel is helpful to talk about with employers. But start thinking about what your career goals are. Maybe start thinking about what you want to do for a company or where you want to grow in a company space. I really want to expand on my UI design capabilities. So I want to think about how to do that. How do I get maybe certifications that can help me in being a better UI designer? Maybe I want to develop some understanding of HTML and CSS. That's something that might not be required for my role, but it can be a really great way for me to collaborate with engineers, and really share my experience with designing with them. And also being able to collaborate with senior designers. All of this can be very helpful when you start going into your interviews and you start talking about what you want to do in your career, and show with an employer that this is something that is of passionate for you, that you are passionate about it, and that you have the tools and the experience, but also the goals in mind to grow at their company.
Adrienne, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, can you pull back to the mural real quick?
Mm-hmm.
There's a question in the chat that I want to address, and I'm sure that Michelle threw it in the parking lot and we'll be like, Amy, we're going to get there. But it was a good question. So I want to step back real quick and kind of talk about the philosophy of this mural. I didn't say this at the beginning, but I was an educator and I taught high school and college students how to do resume design. And I will tell you that one of the scariest things for them is writing a resume from scratch. And how daunting that can be, and how we normalize opening up a Google Doc or a Word doc and just kind of throwing out our information and like trying to go from like, oh, what have I just done, to like, what's my volunteer stuff, to all these things. And what we need to start normalizing is this like gray space before your resume, which is like all this like word vomit and word dump of all these things that we've done over the years. And we don't actually talk about that, nor do we teach that. to our candidates and things like that. So this is what that mural is. It's really a place for you to organize your thoughts before you shift to a Google Doc, before you shift to your Canva. And we're going to get there because we have some other tools in which you guys can build your visual design and how that works in the ATS system. But it's meant to be shared. It's meant to be discussed. Again, we need to normalize that resume making is not a single action or a single solitary, like in a dark room, you're just doing it. You're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that. We need to share and we need to express ourselves. And so this is a place for you guys to do it. So I just wanted to start with that to kind of answer the question as we move forward. So that's it.
Can I add in one more thing related to that? And I think, Adrian, this has been completely spot on around career goals, experience pulling in. How do we frame our education, right? Like that's terrifying. How do I tell someone what I'm doing? I've seen questions in the chat that we'll get to about like, I'm doing a massive career pivot. We were literally laughing about that as presenters before we got on. All of us have made huge career pivots. We'll get there, fear not. But I think to Amy's point, one of the other values I see in this is experience is a broad word intentionally. It does not say work experience, professional experience, volunteer experience, leadership experience. It says experience, right? So you want to be able to pull all of those things in. So your current experience bucket of items may be 15 or 20 things long. That's fabulous. This is a place to put all of that crap so that you don't lose it, right? Because as soon as you don't write it down somewhere, you're going to have to write a resume. And to Amy's point, if you don't have it written down as a thing that you could include, it's going to just be terrifying and you're going to forget that that exists. So this is a great reference point to then say, look at those career goals. Based on those, what do I pull out as my experience? What is relevant to this particular job posting or this kind of job I'm looking for? And what should I then use, right? We don't need to use all of the things that are under our experience bucket every time. We want to pick out the stuff that's super duper relevant and hyper intentional for that philosophy.
I also want to add on to it. Sorry. What you were saying too about Michelle and Amy is that this doc really helps you just to like step by step work through the resume, because when I was doing it alone last year, it was really overwhelming because I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to go. And for me, like having this really breakdown of, okay, like what I need to do, like in a question and answer form, it really makes you think about, okay, step by step, like what I need to add in, like, okay, education, what I need to add in, experiences, okay, and then look at what I have. All right, then let me play around with the layout. And that's like the fun part, you know, like the nitty gritty is the hard part, is just adding in all the fun stuff.
Yeah. And this is supposed to be your whiteboard, right? Like this is supposed to be something that you could literally word vomit any type of experience you can think of. I can go back 20 years. I'm only 29, but I can go back as far as I need to literally dump everything from the minute I graduated high school till now and think of what can be helpful for me in this role, right? And we'll get to that point over on the next slide, on the other side of this mural, where we'll start to cherry pick what can be helpful for a particular job description. But here in your future skills, you might think of what things you want to work towards. They can be very small goals, they can be very large goals, but this tree helps you in thinking of what is the goal and then what are the actions I need to take. So for learning HTML and CSS and Zeppelin, maybe I found some resources that I want to drop right into here so I can link right back to it and start practicing Zeppelin, right? Or start practicing that coding experience. Maybe I want to inquire about others' work, and maybe I start seeing people on LinkedIn that I really want to connect with, and I'll drop their LinkedIn right in here so that I can reference it. This is a living, breathing place that it can get real messy, but it's supposed to be somewhere that you have the resources and the tools to start putting it into your resume later on. And then in the bottom, we start thinking of like what awards, certifications, maybe languages that you speak, maybe things that you took up in your spare time that might seem very small for you, but it can be a really big thing for a company. So I know Grace works at EA. She might be a big gamer and she might have gotten a chance to play at a competitive tournament, right? That might be something to put in there, especially if you're going for a role at a gaming company there. That would be really exciting to start talking about in your resume. Or even for a company in which you are looking at maybe something like healthcare, if you got into run a 5K, or if you have gotten into juicing or something that can be relevant to that company or that industry, this could be a space where you can put that, as well as highlight some of the really exciting things that you've done over the time. If you ran track for 4 years and you made it all the way to regionals, I would put that there. I put an article that I got named International Women's Day Leader back in 2021. That article isn't even around right now anymore, but that's not the case, right? It's really about showcasing your skills and the things that make you really special. And once you've got all of these down in here, and as you continue to add them and grow into them, then you can start thinking about where you want to take that. So this is our resume and cover letter bucket. You can start doing your job research. So in the job research, I chose a role that I thought was really exciting. I saw an associate UX UI interaction designer role at Accenture. That's one of my dream jobs. It's at my dream company. I want to figure out, what are the requirements? What are those things that I will need to show in my resume to let Accenture know that I'm the candidate you want. And so I start to put word for word what their description was. I slapped it right in here and I started to highlight what things are important that they actually need in this. They need someone that can apply human-centered design principles. They need someone that works closely with both external clients and internal cross-functional teams. Basic qualifications, they need a bachelor's of arts with these degrees, or maybe a bachelor's degree or formal training in these areas. So I know also with a sticky note when it was posted. So I also know when I need to go in here and apply by, because I got to click this link, I got to go in and I got to apply very soon. So I don't miss the deadline to do that. But this allows me to say, with these highlighted areas, what things from the other side match up with what is here, right? So basic qualifications, a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Communications. I have that. I will have that coming up. So check mark, I got that. Work closely with external clients and internal cross-functional teams. Well, I haven't actually worked with a client yet, but I do have cross-functional team experience. That's something I could at least cross on. And so you get to then take that, and I just bring up everything. What things do I have here? I start putting it all into this area where I can start thinking about maybe portfolio pieces that might speak to the wireframes that they're talking about, or the user personas that they're talking about. I know I have a UI project that goes into user interface and design principles. So this is your area to kind of see what things match up, maybe what things you might want to work on, and how you can relate that into your resume. So that when you're actually building it out, it helps to share exactly which qualifications align with what they're looking for. In your cover letter, you do a little bit of the same things. So this allows you to write out. I like to write out exactly what I want to say and have someone come in here and look behind me, right? Because we all need someone that's going to say, hey, Adrian, I don't know if this is the best wording, or this doesn't really check the boxes of what they're looking for. How can we rephrase this? So if I was to write this out, which I did, I put my introduction in here, and Amy can come in here easily and say, Adrian, I don't know about this part. Let me put a sticky note and give her some insight that maybe this isn't working well. This isn't something that will go well for Accenture. So that allows me to take that feedback and readjust my intro for my cover letter. This is supposed to be a very collaborative space that you share with maybe a senior designer, maybe a manager, or even a recruiter that is working with Accenture or has worked with Accenture. Maybe they know exactly what Accenture is looking for. So they can come in here and give you some tips and pointers as to how to readjust this. I also like to add mostly the basic information in my introduction. So where my major is, the role that I'm applying for, I always make sure that I put the exact role so that they know. and give them some insight into the experience that I have. You don't want to put it all into your intro, but at least a little bit so they know that you have some experience in shift, and this is what you're looking to do. I'm interested in shifting fully into design as an Accenture's valued team member. One thing that you can do, which I did here, but sometimes it is not always needed, at least at this time, is putting in things like your start date or maybe location preferences. If location preference is very helpful for you, like you can only be in one area, that's something I would definitely say where I'm located or maybe where I want to stay. If you're somebody that's looking to be able to spread out and maybe look for relocation, that's something that you don't have to add your location in, but something that you can always think about. It's a very individual decision. In terms of why you want to definitely include 3 strong reasons as to why you're a good fit. And when you're thinking about why you're a good fit, you want to align it with either their mission, maybe their principles. Some companies have design principles or design values, and look at what you put in your other side of like either your experience, your goals, even some of your additional information, and align it with what you saw in the job requirements. So here I highlighted some of the areas that I thought matched very well. I thought my background in inclusive and accessible design with my role as an employer resource group leader for the disability impacted ERG also aligned with their impact for diverse people and communities through technology. That was something that seemed to fit very well with what they're looking for. So that I made that the very first sentence of my experience. The second reason, crafting engaging customer experience through a lot of different industries, as well as bringing my education into this. They also talk about in their job description about designing for a variety of projects. Well, I've been at a lot of different industries, so I would say that's a lot of projects. So I want to add that in there. And then adding in what maybe a design value you have, what you want to see on a team. I know one of my design values is collaborating with some really great designers. And I know that that's a big part of their goals too, is having somebody that wants to do cross collaboration. So adding that in there so I see, so I can show them that I am a very strong candidate because I already want to work very closely with other designers on their team. And then finally, the ask. I feel like the ask is the scariest one, right? You don't want to say, and so I ask you to give me the job, please. Thank you. But you want to be able to say with confidence that I am a very good candidate. I gave you my reasons, and I'm looking to join you as in this role, right? So giving them just your one last little punch, your last little kick of why you would be a really great fit, as well as attaching your resume. I wanted to remind myself, don't forget to link your portfolio here. So I put some sticky notes. I was like, please don't forget. I even added my link to my sticky notes so I can't forget that. But here, what I would be able to say is like, my background in this would be a valuable asset to the team. And I'm looking to be that natural fit. And I'm lending my strengths to this role so that they say, okay, Adrienne seems to fit the role very well. I know this was something that I saw some questions on whether managers read cover letters anymore. And it's really a toss-up, right? I'd say most of them, yes, if they're asking for it, they will read it. And this will help them at least to be able to filter out who already is a good fit. Some, if they're asking for a cover letter, you might want to submit one just to be safe, because if you don't submit one, you might already end up in that no pile. So definitely create one. This allows you to make one super fast and be able to copy and paste right into your template, whatever your template might be. It can really just be a blank Google Doc. And then finally, make it beautiful. There's a lot of different ways to do this. We're all design buddies here, so there's a lot of different ways that you could go about this. Some people might use InDesign. You can use templates through Word or even Google Docs. Canva is a really great tool to make a really designery resume. I always say, as a designer, you might want to make two. You're going to want to make a design friendly one that shows your design skills and how well you can like align things and make things really nice. But you might want to also make an ATS friendly one. I know Michelle talked about this briefly. An applicant tracking system is used by a lot of major companies to quickly shift through resumes. So putting in a Canva template, it might not recognize the certain bullet points that are there. It might not recognize the hierarchy of your visuals or even of your typography. So using a ATS friendly one, which I'll show you over here, will allow you to go through the system and be able to get in front of the recruiter, right? And so that you can then pass them your designer one. So I have my ATS friendly one here that allows me to send it right through. Some very, I would say, famous ATS systems are things like Talio, Greenhouse. More than likely, you've used one if you've put in an application online before and you just did not know it. So this will allow it to easily scan through and see the keywords that the ATS is looking for in my resume. This is actually pretty long and it cut mine off, but it's a link. So I can always open it up and download it and send it through for another thing. That's the other really great thing about Mural. All of your assets can stay here. It doesn't have to be in your Finder somewhere where you have to dig through it. It's already in your Mural. You can have somebody come in and look at it and get the feedback you need to be able to adjust it. I also have my design one. Also another great template from UX Folio. Super easy to jump in and create it and put it right here for my manager to look at, as well as a simple Google Doc Accenture cover letter, something that I could easily send to them with my portfolio link linked and then my resume attached. And this would be something that I would send over to a senior designer, someone like Amy, who is a really great manager, to say, hey, Amy, how is this? You know, I'm really going for this role. I appreciate your feedback. Can you get me just a little bit of time to review this for me and give me some feedback on this? Because I think that's something that is often not the step we take. You know, we're so ready to apply and send this through that we forget to get the feedback. Have somebody take a second look at it, not just grammatically, but are you sharing the right information for the job that you're applying for? You could have great grammar, everything spelled correctly, but if it's not the experience or if it's not the tools that they're looking for, you might not land that position. So you want to be able to get it to someone to just cross-reference this with the job description that you're applying for.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other is like a grand thing too. One of the conversations that I've had actually with one of my panelists here today, this week, is the fact that rely on other things. Again, it's like normalizing group resume making, right? Like we're not making one together as a group, but giving it and allowing to share this document, which again, because you're building it inside Mural, it's easy to go up to the share and then be able to send it to somebody like Google, and have somebody come in and look at it. Because I, as a manager who work with college students, undergrad and graduate students and young professionals, like I see abilities and strengths in my students before they do. And so we talk about that and we normalize that for them. And so again, while it's like really scary and possibly slightly insecure to be like, here's my life laid out in front of you, like, please judge it and like write for it. Like, it's very, very scary. But again, when you're having really strong conversations with those people that are in your network, like I'm going to look at my students and say like, you're really great at organization. They're like, I've always been like that. Yes, but that is a strength that you need to talk about. And so sometimes I can identify different things in my staff and in my students, and it's my mentees that they have it. So normalize sharing, normalize writing this together. And you'll actually be surprised. So you guys are all doing great work. So that was it. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I'm all done too. I'm happy to take any questions.
We've got some great ones I've been sorting through, Adrian. So maybe I've got them kind of boxed by category. So maybe let's start with that. So we've got a couple of great questions. Maybe let's start with resume education section. So we've got a question from Chaz. I'm currently in a UX bootcamp and graduated in 2019 with a psychology degree. What should I use as education on my resume?
I would say both. Like you definitely want both. In supporting students through General Assembly, I always told them you need both of them. One, your psychology degree is major, and that's going to be wonderful for where you're going in your career. On top of that, you just did a really cool thing. You went through another program, developed your design skills that are going to be a wonderful match together. So you're going to want to put both of them. On mine, I have both. I have them stacked. So my BA is there, my springboard education is there too. And same on, well, yes, up here. Same on this side. I have them both there.
I love that. We have one more kind of education related question on resume. And I think I can actually take this one. So Katerina asked, if you're a part-time traditional artist, can you put grants within the resume? 100% yes, right? Just like she was talking about scholarships, etc. I worked in kind of a more traditional sciences background for a while, so I have publications to my name. That goes in a special section on my resume for publications. If you're getting grants and that is a way to gauge success, if there's any way to gauge success, put that in its own bucket on your resume, right? Because whether it's grant money, whether it's stipends, etc., like all of that deserves kudos, and all of those processes are hard to go through and get selected on. So 100% yes. Natalie, I see your question. We've got a bunch of those related to experience. So let's jump in. I apologize in advance, Adrian. We have like 6 or 8 of these. A lot of them I think are very similar. We've got a couple of questions from folks asking how far back should my go?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. You were breaking up just a tad.
Ooh, sorry. How far back should my experience go?
I always say anywhere between 5 to 7 years. You don't want it to be so long, but also you want to cherry pick. I think it also depends on the role that you're applying for. So for my experience, and I saw that somebody mentioned gaps, right? I have tons of gaps. I have a chronic illness. I took time off work to be a stay-at-home mom for a year or two as well. So I always choose what would be relevant to the company that I'm applying for. I have company experience at an IT background, but that was maybe 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. So if I was applying for an IT company at some place like maybe Booz Allen Hamilton or Deloitte, doing some type of consulting, then I might add that in there somewhere, just to share that experience of working for another IT company. But it's not something that you would want to be too long. I think just putting relevant, maybe about 3 or so jobs that were in the past 5 years could be helpful.
Love that. I've got a pair of questions here and a bunch of other stuff blowing up in the chat related to that. Kind of asking, I hear people encouraging me to apply to positions even if I don't have all the years of experience. How do I get my first job without experience? And my question back to you guys would be, when you say I don't have experience, have you been living in your dorm room for 5 years? Because if the answer is no, then you have experience doing something, right? If you're involved in anything on your campus, that's experience. That belongs on your resume. If you've done any volunteer work, that belongs on your resume. Did you work a job in high school? I don't care if it was in food service. I've seen some folks noting that on the side. I'm trying to pivot industries. I used to work in like customer service and I'm trying to get into this industry. That's amazing. customer service is hard. You're on your feet, long hours. You are managing problems as they come up. You are solutioning rapidly. Like those are all amazing transferable skills. And I would handily take someone with customer experience on their resume over someone who didn't have it if everything else was equal, right? So 100% like include those things on your resume. Think about, if you don't have any quote unquote professional experience, how can you reach out to folks to grab some of that kind of professional experience, or work with somebody in your industry to say, hey, what else can I try to include either in a portfolio or in a resume that would put me up and above in this application? I guess my last note on that before I have a different question for you, Adrian, related to this is I also like to openly acknowledge that in my cover letter, right? Like I want to transition to the museum space. That is a very competitive industry that is overflooded with people. And I recognize I don't have one-for-one experience. I'm not an art history major. That's fine. I put that as the first opening line in my cover letter. I recognize my background is unusual, and this is what I think it brings to your industry, right? So there's no need to hide the fact that you may not be the exact candidate, because pivots are interesting too. And a lot of employers, especially right now, are looking at people who have a diverse and varied background as opposed to someone who maybe did the, quote unquote traditional thing of like, I knew I was going to be a UX designer from age 3, and that's what I've done my whole life. And I have a portfolio of 15 years of work. And like, those are all great things too, but there's more value in that kind of variety and diversity potentially. Related to that, we've got a whole slew of questions for you, Adrian, that I'm going to summarize in how do I write about transferable skills?
Most definitely. So the way that I go about transferable skills is the same way that I think you should go about using this mural, right? Informational interviews are very helpful to give you a good sense of what the job is like. So talking with someone like Grace, someone like that works at Accenture, that works anywhere, that can help you in understanding a little bit of what their role is, can help you in seeing where those skills align, right? If you're working in customer service, I know I did retail for about 7 years before I transitioned into tech. And in that, I worked with a lot of people where I had to collaborate with them for 8 hours at a time to ensure that none of us were doing the same work. We weren't trying to do double the work, but collaborate, work together to come to a common goal. We had to do some solutions oriented work where we might had to troubleshoot if somebody needed to return something or needed to exchange something, trying to figure out how we can get someone the right size if that size is not in the store. So of course, this is not UX design, right? But there's a lot of areas there that are very much like the role that you're looking for. There is the problem solving, there is that solutions oriented work. So being able to write about that in where you have your actual experience can be helpful. At General Assembly, I engaged over 2,000 students through empathy, active listening, and strategic problem solving. That's UX. I wasn't doing exactly UX there, but those are those transferable skills. So using those action words like we talked about before, as well as like verbs, what are those very strategic things that you were doing on your role, or maybe problem solving, multitasking. You don't want to use a lot of buzzwords because then it just feels like very jargony that you're using all these buzzwords in your resume. But you do want to say how you did a certain task without saying, yeah, I talked to students and I helped them in getting signed up for class. It was a lot more work than that, just as much as your previous job was a lot more work than just what it might seem very simple to do. So start thinking about that and get somebody involved. Tell them, get into your mural, have them really think about what those actions that you took to be able to do the role that you were doing before.
Real quick, Adrian, can you scroll out real quick? I'm gonna give a pro tip here. So Adrian is in her mural, and this is her, she owns it. Can you either at the bottom or at the side extend your canvas? And then go ahead and just add, at the bottom, wherever, and just add a section for transferable skills. So again, pro tip, you guys have this template. When you go, guys, when you create your own, know that you can expand this template, and then you can add a space in an area. You just do it from scratch, just create a new box or duplicate. Yep. You can actually create areas for those things when you're talking about those transferable skills. So you guys can actually create sections. When I built my resume too, I actually had, because again, some people were saying this, Barb is my new teacher friend in the group. She was a teacher. And so a lot of times I actually had my resume divided up into like divisions. So like my curriculum work, my leadership work, knowing where I was going and looking for those skills. And I actually, instead of clumping them by work experience, I actually clumped them by the experience that they were looking for. So that's how feedback channel. That's how I did mine. Anyway, pro tip, you can expand your mural and add like whatever section you want to these things. So
I love that. Maybe another quick note, kind of closing out this conversation on experience. I see a lot of other notes in the chat. If you have something very specific that you want feedback on, sign up for our resume review sessions in 2 weeks. Right? Bring your resume, bring your half done resume. We don't care. We're happy to give you any and all feedback on that. We'll post the link in the chat again for that in just a second. But feel free to come to that. If I think Grace posted that as well. Like there are channels for this for design buddies, right? So if you're looking for feedback, post that up in the Discord, get some feedback from other designers, get some feedback. And on that topic of kind of formatting and feedback from other designers, maybe just a couple of quick questions that I'll answer, and then kind of a last closing one for you, Adrian. So I see a couple notes here on, how long should the resume be? Do I create a new template for each one? Do you recommend 1 versus 2 columns, etc.? I would strongly recommend, in terms of columns, formatting, layout generally, browse around online and see what you love, right? Like this is a great example and a chance for you to start to build a personal brand, whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to mean a sexy logo and a color palette, right? But how do you want to lay out information? How do you want to communicate to folks? And that's a really, really good way to be thinking about that. If you're completely stuck, right? If you've scrolled through Canva and nothing jumps out at you, if you've seen a handful of PowerPoint templates and you're like, meh, check out Etsy, y'all. They sell resume templates. I know that sounds insane, but they sell resume templates. That doesn't mean you have to buy them, but it means that you can scroll through them and look for inspiration. Same thing on Pinterest. So I'd encourage you to think about that. I saw a couple of notes in there around how long does the resume be, or how long should the resume be, 1 or 2 pages, etc. If you're going to be doing things like a CV, which is very different than a resume, and using that for applying to jobs maybe outside of the US, that's a different webinar, right? Like CVs are a whole different monster. Those can go on for pages and pages. I would strongly recommend, imagine your resume is a single sheet of paper. If it cannot fit on one printed front and back sheet, no one is going to read beyond that, right? I don't care if you hand a recruiter a stapled set of 2 pages, they're never going to look at page 2. They're never going to do it. So if you bleed onto 3 pages, maybe you should check that out, and think about what you can more what you can condense down that's really valuable. For anyone who has got maybe less than 5 or 10 years of work experience, I'd recommend to try to stick to a single page. That's what most recruiters, at least for those kinds of, let's call them entry and mid-level experience jobs, are looking for 1 page. So if you submit a PDF with 2 pages, they may not even scroll. So just think about that as well. And then kind of last formatting question that I'll address before I hand off maybe the last thing to you, Adrian. Let's see, I'm just checking, make sure I got all the other ones. Pages, columns. Okay, so kind of last general question is, do I include things like my face, right? Like, do I put my photo, do I put where I'm currently living, et cetera, on my resume? That's up to you. I see Adrian shaking your head, right? Like I find that to be a very personal decision, and kind of goes with your brand stuff. I generally don't include a photo of myself on my resume unless it's something where I know me being a woman is going to be a benefit because of what their organization's makeup currently looks like. Then I absolutely want them to know that I'm a woman, right? Like that's going to benefit me. If you think you including a photo on your resume is not going to help you or could hurt you, do not include it, right? Don't include anything that's going to potentially intimidate somebody or not have anyone call you back. And for things like, do I include my location, etc. Right now I'm looking to move. So I'm not putting my location on my resume because it's none of their business if they're going to pay me a moving stipend or not. And that's something that we can talk about if we get there in interviews, right? If you're looking for work in Atlanta area and you're currently Atlanta based, put that you're Atlanta based on your resume, because they're going to be like, oh my God, they could start in like 3 weeks, right? They don't have to move. They don't have to like do the thing and put all their stuff in boxes and trek to wherever we are. So I'd say do that very employer based. I see other stuff blowing up the chat. I will answer those in just a second. But maybe one last question, closing question for you, Adrienne, which is, do I really have to go through this template every time I want to apply to a job?
So you don't have to go through this template every single time, right? This is supposed to help you in putting everything here so that you can cherry pick from the information what you put in your resume. So do you have to recreate the resume every time? More than likely, yes. The job description is not going to be the same from Accenture to Twitter, but the information that you put in here is supposed to help you in being able to decipher what you want to add to your resume for Twitter versus your resume for Accenture. So that might change. You could even use the same template that you might find through Canva or online. There's tons of free templates for resumes. Even for the ATS one, there's tons of things you could use. You could even copy and paste mine. I wouldn't mind. But from there, you would then put your information in. So you don't have to redo this exactly. You'll do this, you'll add to it as you're getting new things done, as you have new goals, as you go through new classes, as you work on new projects with people, as you do more jams with design buddies or Adobe or anybody that you might do some of these really cool hackathons with. You'll keep adding info on your successes, on your experiences into this template, and then take the information that you want for that particular job and put it into your resume. And to feedback off of what Michelle was saying, I was shaking my head no from a DEI perspective. I've worked in DEI for quite some time. And a big reason why I say no to the pictures on the resume is because there is still bias. There is unconscious bias everywhere. We all have it. And so it can be challenging if you're going into a space that you don't know what that company makeup is like. You don't know how deep rooted they are in their DEI space, whether they are looking to have diversity on their teams is something that's still very unsure and still very taboo. And so you don't want something that's going to count you and your skills out if you don't need it to, right? So portfolios, I think they can be a really great place to add your face for your about me. I've even seen people get really creative and put in illustrations of themselves, maybe a emoji of themselves to share a little bit of who they are and get really fun with their creativity. But for resumes, and especially for like your ATS one, which is going to go in the system anyway and won't be able to read that that's an image, you don't need a picture on your resume or your cover letter per se. Let your work speak for you. Let your experience speak for you, because that's what your resume and your cover letter is going to really do once they get that in the system.
Oh, also one more thing before also to that. Remember when you export your resume to do it as a PDF, not like a Word document, not an image, because back to what she was saying, when the ADS reads it, they read words. So if you read it as an image, they can't read anything nor scan. So remember, this is a really huge tip to upload it as a PDF.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's it for kind of questions. I see a couple other really specific ones in the chat. So if you want to stick on for another couple of minutes, we're happy to answer those. But otherwise, I've posted back in and I can drop them back in one more time. I know the chat's like still blowing up with some really funny memes. So thank you everyone for those. But I posted back in that resume review session. right, for March 7th and 8th, 5 p.m. Pacific. So we have a lot of time zones on. I'm not going to read off every time zone we have represented here for your translation into your local time. Check out that link in the chat. Feel free to sign up there. What we'll be doing then in those sessions is having you bring your little resume and or cover letter and doing small breakout groups with other design buddies folks to have everybody do that resume review together. I see some folks asking like, how do we know if we got in? If you can still register, there are still slots open. So go ahead and register for that. And we'll send out kind of reminders and stuff for that, as well as all the information that we've shared here today. Additionally, if anyone's like, oh my gosh, I need a copy of this template, I have other questions. If you have something really specific, stick around. Otherwise, you can also reach out to us on social, etc. We're happy to chat with you or answer anything else that you have questions for.
Awesome, thank you. We have a couple of minutes if we want to answer any last minute questions. Otherwise, you could do a group photo. Whatever y'all want. I don't have a hard stop, but like if anyone else, feel free to drop if you have a hard stop. Yeah, do we want to do more questions or a quick group photo?
Let's go ahead and do a photo real quick, Grace, and then we can leave the floor open for questions. I'm happy to stick on for another 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. After questions, I see some y'all plug your links. We all have a time where you can like shamelessly promote yourself. We love buddies to connect. So because we want to keep track of the chat for questions, we don't have promotions during the chat, but afterwards, you're all welcome to plug away. We really encourage y'all to add each other on social media and get to know each other as well. And yeah, I'll leave this time to open your camera if you want to be in our group photo. Feel free to bring any objects you want. I have Fluffle with me saying hi. Yeah, I'll count down like 10 seconds and y'all can turn on your camera. If you wish to be in our group photo, if you don't want to turn on your camera, you can still react and we can still see that your favorite emoji in our group photo. And I just looked at My Little Resume meme. I love it. I love My Little Pony. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, so cool. I'll do a static one first and then a wave for Instagram story. We like to spice things up here at Design Buddies. In top of group photo, we like to like do a little dance and wave because we are the buddy fam. And with that, I'll count down 5 seconds. And I'll take a couple of photos and choose the one where everyone looks the best in. All right, 5. I love, just want to say I love the dog filter, Alexander. I like been staring at it the whole time and love it. All right, 5, 4, 3. You can react too. 2, 1. Say resume. Resume. All right. We can do a wave, and this will be on our Instagram story at design.buddies if you want to see yourself on our story. Ready, set, wave. Hello, buddies. We just finished up a wholesome resume and cover letter workshop with our buddies at MURAL. Make sure to catch the recording on our YouTube channel. Thanks for coming, buddies. Cool. Yeah. All right. We can take some more questions if anyone wants.
And feel free, if you guys would like, feel free to come off mute or drop your question back in the chat. We just had it blow up with a bunch of people's links and stuff. So feel free, if you have a question you want to have raised back up, drop it in the chat or come off mute and ask. And we're happy to field those for what's called another 10 minutes before we give you the rest of your day, night, morning back. The link for the resume review, I will drop it in momentarily.
For that as well, I just looked at the signups. We are very low on spots, which the team and I will meet this week and see if we can plug in some extra ones towards the end of the month in March as well. So I'm aware that they at some point may become filled in the next couple of hours, but we'll go ahead and see when we can fit a couple more in for those who are interested. Weekend days. Noted.
Any other questions?
I'll take this one about the resume for each job title or company. It is preferred I've actually seen friends that make a general one and then it's like they throw it in the air and then they hope that some company is going to pick them up. The statistically and research has kind of shown that when you do tailor them, and it could be really simple name, make sure that the title of the job matches the title that you're applying for, very specific things about that company, so they understand. I've actually seen resumes that are actually written towards other companies, like they didn't tailor it. I don't really like reading those that are not meant for me, personally, when I read those resumes. So sometimes it's just a minor tweak. I have in my cover letter and resume, like there are sections that just don't change because I don't change when it comes to that. Like, so, you know, my experience doesn't change, but like maybe there are some paragraphs are a little off there. So yeah, I would definitely put a little bit of extra time making them special because they're special.
Hey, Amy, to add to that, did you want to talk about, John asked, when you're tailoring resumes, how do you time box a tailoring session?
Oh, I didn't really time box. I just went in and changed things. I don't know, like a half hour maybe. Usually, especially when you're applying for the same types of jobs, like you understand kind of what they're looking for. I will tell you that my resume from public education, I was a librarian. It's fine. I taught junior high and high school, and then I was a certified school librarian. And then I went back and I got my MBA. So then I had to transition from school to business. My resume went through a lot of iterations trying to figure out what the right words were and what I actually wanted. Because some of you might know this, teachers are little Swiss Army knives, like we can do a lot of stuff. So I definitely had to work on my wording and those phrases that actually really appealed to, like, how do you go from managing 30 students every 42 minutes to like managing a team of 5? It's pretty simple, but like you have to make sure that your connections are. So I did time box a lot more time for that. But when I was going from job to job, it was like 10 minutes here and there, just making sure that my words are right.
Love it. I see a question from Biba asking about resources that may list skills or desired skills by job. Great question. I would recommend 2 things. One, the job posting that you're applying to is your friend, right? They will likely have a huge list of skills and the way that they want those worded, or what is clearly directly transferable. Lift their language. They do not have, like, people in HR spend a lot of time writing job postings. Use the language in their job posting, right? Like it is there for a reference, it is there for a reason. The other thing I would recommend is go stalk LinkedIn, right? Like people on LinkedIn have amazing ways to write about their work. There are a handful of people I follow on LinkedIn that are like 2nd or 3rd level connections friends that I literally have starred to go check the way that they talk about their experience. And I lift that language when I talk about my own, because I'm like, oh my God, they're so much better about writing about this than I am. I'm just going to borrow that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a pro tip. I'm going to tell you guys my LinkedIn secret for the 80 some people that are 84. Yes. Okay. I called it right. So the 84 people that are in here. So this is my LinkedIn secret. You can connect with recruiters. Let's be real. The other thing is go and find the people who are leading the teams that you want to work on, like the managers and those directors and things like that, because this is what they do. When their teams have an opening on them, they post to their personal LinkedIn, come join my team, come work on my team. Those are the people you want to be friends with. Not only that, but once they befriend you and once you guys are connected, then anything that they like or something, you never know who's looking when you're posting things. Even if you're a lurker, it's totally fine. And I respect that because I'm an introvert as well. But you never know when you like something, it's going to show up on their screens. Make sure you make those algorithms work for you. Pro tip is when you're reaching out to somebody that you don't know, my go-to phrase is, this is ridiculous, but I'm going to share it anyway, and it always works, is that I always request to follow them and the fact that I want to follow their professional journey. I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to like hang out and go to coffee. I'm not looking for like a pro relationship. I literally just want to connect with you because I want to follow your professional journey on LinkedIn. Like we connect. I love what you post. I'm interested in your field. Like I would love to connect with your journey. There's an element of like, oh, look, I'm reaching somebody that I don't know and somebody wants to follow me. Versus again, you're actually looking for their posts as well. So that's my pro tip. That's fine.
I love it. I think it's brilliant and genius. I actually literally have an interview next week as a follow-up from someone that I cold called on LinkedIn like 3 months ago. Y'all, that may be my other general tip on job hunting categorically. And I know this was a resume workshop, but like job hunting takes time. This is a part-time job. Job hunting is a part-time job. It will take, if you are serious about it, 5 to 10 hours a week, right? You need to block that in your schedule. This is not something you casually do. If you're serious about going to find new work. And it is a long runway, right? Sometimes you hear magic stories about someone who like, DM somebody and like 2 days later they were interviewed and got the job. I see you, Amy. Right. But like that is super rare. Normally you're in a hiring pipeline if you're working with a big company or a big-ish company, even 200 people. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
As you're looking for work. I see that, Grace. It is a numbers game. I played the numbers game in college really hard. I applied for 115 internships one summer and ended up getting 3 offers. It's not because I was underqualified. It's because everyone else was also applying for internships, right?
We also have like the power of that networking, and it could be like an Instagram network too, right? We just had this week for my team. So I hire the student ambassador program here at MURAL. We have semester hiring phases. And so we actually had a student from Northwestern reach out to me via LinkedIn. I marked it and then I got busy, which is awful. And I shouldn't admit that out loud. And then I never responded. So what he did is he went and he stalked other MURAL student ambassadors, connected with Michelle, who met with him, and then re-upped it in my inbox. And I chatted with him the other day. Like he just kind of came back around. It was really great, but we did that all through just LinkedIn connection. So yeah, it's crazy.
I see someone has a question. Come off mute. Tell us what your question is.
Yeah, I know there's quite a bit of real quick for Chaz, a hackathon is often like a sprint. They could be anywhere from a day, 2 days, sometimes even a week, and they depend on what they are. So like design sprints or hackathons or jams, whatever you like to call them, happen a lot. I know Adobe hosts a lot. I know Design Buddies did a game jam one time, which I got to watch but didn't participate. But there's a lot of different ones that help you work on projects, and they're really great collaboration efforts. So oftentimes you work with maybe 2 or 3 other people and get to make some really great things, and they could be some really great projects that you might want to put on your resume. I know I promised I would talk to you about that, so happy to share.
Where's our friend who had a question? Are you able to come off mute? Otherwise, feel free to drop it in chat for us.
Hi.
Yes.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for your time and helping us.
Of course.
I have a question for people such as me that we have a full-time job already, and UX design is a new field for me to apply because I just became familiar with this field. When we're applying for a job, and I know the whole process of interview is like a sequence of events to get to the last step. How can we manage that while we're working full time? Like, do you guys have an idea? Are they flexible with us? Because of course you don't want to talk about getting into another field in front of your coworker and colleague and all that. How can we manage that? It's so hard because I know they have like an interview back to back, and that's my big concern in this field. Like it's starting with this field. Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead, Adrienne.
I was going to say, I was working full time when I applied for my roles in UX UI. A lot of times I would either meet very early in the morning if they were able to, especially if they were on the West Coast. Sometimes I let them know that I can meet maybe half an hour in the evenings. And sometimes I did it on my lunch break. I had an hour for lunch. I might do an hour interview during that time. It really depends on what your work is like. I know for me, I had a lot of independent time in my work. So I might schedule a meeting, which was really a meeting for an interview, but it was a meeting that could be helpful, right? Just being able to do that, and oftentimes talk with the recruiters, talk with the hiring manager, let them know that I have a son. I told them oftentimes, this is the times that I can do this, and they will definitely work with you if they think that you're a really great candidate. They're not going to get scared by you not having a lot of time in your day. They want to be able to talk to you, and they'll definitely make the time to do so.
I'll add to that as well. So being a public school teacher, I was a union member, which means like there's a lot of restrictions with what we did.
I love that. And I 100% agree with that. I literally did the same thing too. Yeah, no. 100%. I've done. Also be very cognizant of who has access to your calendar and how you put things on your calendar, right? Don't put interview for whatever when you block your calendar slot if your boss can see your calendar. Like just basics, right? I see Ivana in the chat asked something similar, right? Like, how do I present that I'm a part-time artist when I'm looking for a UX job, right? Maybe you want to be able to keep doing that through 2 or 3 days a week or a day a week. I think it's really important to look for jobs that fit that, right? So being clear that you're not looking for a full-time job or looking for a full-time job that is really flexible with their hours. So they're not going to require you to be in office 5 days a week. Because if they require you 5 days a week in office, that's never going to work, right? You're always going to have a problem. But if you look for a job that says, like, I have a friend who works in aerospace, and they don't care if he works his 40 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and works 16-hour days. They have no problem with that. They're like, that's on you. Like, get your hours done. And when the work is done, great. Like, come back next week. So I think it's important to think about that when you're looking for employers, and reach out to current employees to ask about their flexible work policies if you're looking to kind of maintain other work when you're doing that, if that's helpful.
Yeah. I want to address 2 questions. I was saying about union, I was a union member being a public school teacher. And so when I was interviewing for jobs, I would be very clear about that. And usually the recruiters are like, oh, like, there are some jobs in which you cannot leave to do a 1 o'clock in the afternoon interview. Most of the time they're looking at the manager's schedules to see when they're open. But like, I was union, so I had to wait until after school. And those who I happened to talk to were very, it was the same thing. They were very understanding about that. To Alexander's question about leaving a toxic workplace, I always use phrase like professional growth opportunity, and maybe you like just leveled out. Like, at the end of the day, whether it was like toxic is kind of different, but like for you very personally, you had leveled out of your position. It wasn't, possibly the best there, but like when I left teaching, I don't know if you guys know what's happening in K-12 right now, that's besides the point, is the fact that like, I personally was looking for a professional growth opportunity to increase and enhance my skills. And that's the phrase that I went with. And because again, like, I don't know, that's your past. And like, I could sit here all day long and talk about, all the other things I did in my life, but like, I'm looking for a professional growth opportunity in this field, and this is where I want to be. So that's how I would do it. That's just me though. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. It's similar to that, the same way that we're recommending having people give you feedback on your resume and cover letter. If there are questions like that you are really nervous about for your interview, practice, right? Have the same people who reviewed your resume and cover letter be like, can I have 15 minutes of your time to have you run through 2 or 3 sample interview questions with me? Glassdoor is a great resource to see what kinds of questions specifically get asked in interviews. And that's a great way for you to practice the wording with someone who's a friend, right? Who can be like, maybe that's not like the best way to say that. Let's like work on how we talk about that experience, or you didn't showcase your skills well enough, right? Like, let me give you some pointers, because to Amy's point, they may also know things about you that you are just nervous or to talk about. So phone a friend.
Have someone in. I love that. I love this. I hope you guys at the end of the day got at least one nugget of information, whether it was a template that you guys are going to use, whether it's this conversation, whether it's something from the chat. Just taking away one piece of nugget makes your time worthwhile. And we had a lot of fun. Is there any other questions? I know we are way over time, but you guys hung out with us for an extra 20 minutes. I absolutely love that. Many good nuggets. Okay. Thanks, John. Okay. Yes. I may be missing an 11-year-old basketball game right now, so it's fine.
Oh, no.
Yeah, thank
That's-
you. Oh, go
We're all
ahead.
on LinkedIn. We all have our emails, and you can always connect with us. I'm always open for questions. And I
Yeah.
know Michelle and Amy are too. So don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. DM, all the things, and reach out to us at Mural. Education.mural.co will reach us out to the education team as well. Otherwise, my email's on there, my LinkedIn's on there. I'm happy to connect. I'm happy to meet for 15 minutes. Absolutely. So check out those resource pages on mural.co. We built that website for students. We're learning 300 templates strong. So if you guys are looking for other things that you can do, go check it out as well. We love it. Anything else, Grace?
Yeah, that's it. Thank y'all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And thank y'all for 74 of y'all for sticking overtime as well. Really great questions from all of y'all as well. I know some of y'all want to plug your link, so now's the time you can plug away. Drop your link, shamelessly promote like anything you want in the chat. Add each other on LinkedIn, add each other on Instagram, Twitter, whatever you all want. Just shameless AF, yes. Finally, shameless AF, yes. Go connect with each other, add each other, send each other personalized invites. We love it when people connect. And yeah, I saw Paige said this is the most helpful resume workshop. So yeah, really great. Thank y'all so much for coming. Plug away, buddies. I see all the LinkedIn links. Love it. Just add each other. And I plugged mine as well, so you're welcome to add me. Yeah, I know we're overtime, so for our hosts, we can do a really quick retrospectives. Yeah, for like next up and stuff. So open up a breakout room. All of y'all can stay. I have permission for y'all to unmute, so you can discuss your takeaways if you want. But for our hosts, we're going to open a breakout room. I just don't like kicking people out, and so that's why we have that. You can hang out with each other there. I'm going to stop streaming on